On this day in history, November 3rd, 1998, independent candidate and former pro wrestler Jesse "The Body" Ventura elected governor of Minnesota. November 3rd, 1969, about a year after his razor-thin victory for the White House, President Nixon, in a televised address, calls on the silent majority to endorse his policies in terms of Vietnam. And back in 1964, Lyndon Johnson on this date defeats Barry Goldwater for the U.S. presidency. You know, just as we see the corporate media opposing Donald Trump this year, the newspapers and networks were all in for LBJ in 64. And unlike the situation now with internet news sites and Newsmax TV, Goldwater had no alternative media to counter the Democrat bias. Reflecting on the race, Barry said his chances to become president died when JFK did, and the American people would not change chief executives following the shock of Jack Kennedy's assassination. So on this day 52 years ago, Lyndon Johnson won a term as president in his own right after ascending to the to the Oval Office from his vice presidency on that fateful day in Dallas almost a year earlier. Lyndon Johnson won with a landslide victory with help from the District of Columbia voters who were casting ballots for the first time on this date in 1964. The passage of the 23rd Amendment in 1961 gave citizens of the nation's capital the right to vote for a commander-in-chief and a vice president. The 23rd Amendment, one of 27 amendments to our Constitution, and our amendments, the subject of today's Let Freedom Ring.
The framers of the United States Constitution recognized the need to be able to amend it, and did so with the first 10 amendments, known as the Bill of Rights. But the founders also wanted it to be difficult to change the Constitution, and devised a two-step process of proposing and ratifying amendments. Amendments are first proposed by a two-thirds vote of Congress, or by a convention of at least two-thirds of the states. Proposed amendments must then be ratified by 3/4 of the states. Since the original 10 amendments, 17 additional amendments have been ratified. Most of the additional amendments resulted in the expansion of civil rights and historic changes for our country. The 13th Amendment, for example, abolished slavery, and the 15th Amendment guaranteed the right to vote, regardless of race. The 19th Amendment gave women the right to vote, and the 21st Amendment repealed the 18th, which prohibited the manufacture or sale of alcohol. Other amendments created the federal income tax and limited presidential terms to 2. The 27th and last amendment passed in 1992. It prevented Congress from giving themselves pay raises during their current term. Today, members of Congress propose around 100 amendments to the Constitution each year, but most never reach the floor for a vote. I'm Callista Gingrich, and this is Let Freedom Ring on Newsmax TV.
Our thanks to Callista, and right here on the anchor desk, our friend Ed Berliner. What's coming up tonight on Newsmax Prime at 8?
Coming down to the election day, you have to nail down those important groups, those few groups that you have to get out to vote for you, and one in particular. With 5 days to go, both Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump are bearing down on those key groups both of them need to win the Beltway brass ring. One of those, the key African-American vote. Recent numbers have set off the alarm bells on the Democratic side, however, for it would seem Black America is not rushing to the early voting as expected. News that has brought the president himself into the fray.
President Obama is appealing to Black voters to support Clinton on Election Day. In part, he says, so he can pass the baton to someone who believes in the same things he does.
You do feel like you owe it to the president to support Hillary Clinton this time around?
Yes, in so many words, I do feel that. I don't think he was given a fair shot the whole time. We've come a long way. We still have a long way to go, and hopefully Hillary will take us the rest of the way that we need to get there.
But even with President Obama talking about his legacy and work left to be done, African-American voters are still not feeling it for Hillary Clinton. And tonight on Prime, we'll hear from two of these key voters as to why they're not thrilled with Hillary, but aren't exactly ready to go in for Donald Trump either. That's the biggest thing. Many people say, I don't want to vote for Hillary, but but they're not willing to go all in for Donald Trump just yet. So you've got those 5 days, JD, and you know what that means to people out there seeking office. They got to hone in on it, and that's exactly what Trump is doing right now.
Yeah, and I look forward to hearing more about it tonight, 8 o'clock Eastern on Newsmax Prime. Thanks very much, Ed. Now, someone else we need to look at, Donald Trump, really feeling good last night at a rally in Pensacola, Florida. Let's look at some of what he had to say.
Because I've been watching Hillary the last few days. She's totally unhinged. We don't want any of that. Hillary is the one who accepted debate questions given to her by Donna Brazile in advance of a debate, and now it's turned out to be 2 debates with Bernie Sanders. Can you imagine Bernie Sanders? If that happened to me, it probably did. Although we won the debates anyway, I don't think it mattered. But she got the questions, and she never reported it. And they don't say that, these people. All they do is talk about Donna Brazile. Who cares? By the way, do you see her on television the other night trying to answer that one? That was called choking. Let me out of the studio, please. Hillary strongly supports sanctuary cities like San Francisco, where incredible Kate Steinle was murdered by an illegal immigrant who had been deported at least 5 times. A Trump administration will cancel all federal funding to sanctuary cities. In 6 days, we are going to win the great state of Florida, and we are going to win the White House. Gonna win it. It's feeling like it already, isn't it? Just, we've got to be nice and cool, nice and cool. Right, stay on point, Donald, stay on point. It's just been announced that in the month of October, we've raised over $100 million in small donations. I don't think that's ever been done. Has that ever been done before? That sounds more like of a Democrat thing, not a Republican thing, right? That's a great honor. That means there are a lot of people out there that want us to really get this done. Oh boy, oh boy, oh boy, what a country. But we're going to make it respected again. We're going to make it great again, I'm telling you.
Donald Trump last night in Pensacola, Florida. Time for a final phone call, the final call from Philadelphia. John joins us. John, we got about a minute and a half. What's on your mind?
Okay, Jay, I do want to thank you again for having me on. I'll make it fast. Donald Trump, they keep pushing this out on about his language. Well, I was on the executive board in a local union for steel workers, and we had over 3,000 people, many of them women. They got a worse mouth and made more offers than Donald Trump ever did. So bad, I come home and told my wife, our daughter is not working in a factory. We're sending her to somewhere else to get a trade. That's how bad it is with women. Now, if you want to save this country, you better vote for Donald Trump. If you want to lose this country, vote for Hillary Clinton, because you'll never know if she's going to tell us the truth.
Hey, John, very quickly, since Melania is in Philadelphia today, what kind of reception do you think she'll get? About 30 seconds.
I think she'll do very good, but they do good all the time. But I just don't understand what these polls are showing, where she's ahead all the time when he's got twice as many people showing up at their rallies than the Democrats have.
Well, remember, we'll find out when all America goes to the polls next Tuesday. John, I want to thank you for your call this afternoon from Philadelphia. Now, tonight at 8 o'clock Eastern on Newsmax Prime, Howie Carr, who you can watch this afternoon at 4 right here on Newsmax TV, my old congressional colleague Michael Patrick Flanagan, and international reporter Margaret Howell, and pollster John Zogby to take a look at the numbers. That is tonight. 8 o'clock Eastern, 5 o'clock Pacific. We'll be looking for you then. Until then, stay brave, stay free, stay tuned, and thanks